The lectionary readings, 2 Samuel 11, chapter 1 to 15, chapter 11, verse 1 to 15, Psalm 14, Ephesians 3, 14 to 21, and John's Gospel, chapter 2. We're looking at 2 Samuel chapter 11 at the moment, and this is the account of David, King David, of course, the same David who slayed Goliath and had a heart after God, same David who penned most of the Psalms, and who was a musician for God, and also a war hero, and certainly someone who was leading his people. This was an anointed person of God. This was God's man of the moment. And here we see the account of his adultery with Bathsheba, and also not only did he commit adultery with Bathsheba, but he also had Bathsheba's husband, Uriah the Hittite, killed in battle, because he sent him into the front of the battle. And so this says something to us straight away this morning. This is something that really impacts us, and that is, it's all about the lusts of the flesh. And the fact that sex is one of the strongest drives that is actually known to mankind. And we have to come to terms with that. We have to realise, and when you imagine what the sex industry is pushing out today, and the pornography that goes on, and the fact that our whole media seems to be turned around sex. It doesn't matter what program you seem to put on TV. With all due respect, all we seem to see is boobs and bums, and that's what it's like all the time. And people have got hardly any clothes on the TV and in the media, and it's no surprise that we're almost consumed with sex and with the lust of the flesh, because it's not just sex. The lust of the flesh is all sorts of things. It's avarice, it's greed, and these are the things that cause us to have problems and to fall short of the glory of God. Now, God obviously made sex. He made us, male and female, and so there is a need for that sexual attraction, and unfortunately there are times when it goes wrong. This was one of those times. So here is a great man of God who is reduced to effectively animalistic lusts, and unfortunately he goes even further than that, and because his lust for Bathsheba is so strong that he then tries to cover the fact that he has made her pregnant. He tries to cover that by getting Uriah to go to his home and stay at his home. And then he goes even further than that, and he tries to get Uriah to go to his home by getting him drunk. So he gets him drunk so that he falls home and staggers home, and then he can lay with his wife, and therefore it will cover his sin. And in the end, he can't get away with that either, so he sends Uriah the Hittite with a note to Joab into the army, and says to Joab, send this man Uriah the Hittite to the front of the battle, and then pull back from him, so that he literally, everyone just jumps on him and he dies. And so what it says to me is that the ingenuity that we will go to, and the lengths that someone will go to meet their desires, to meet their earthly desires and lusts in this world, is quite amazing. That sexual drive is so strong that it will really draw people to the point of doing incredibly bad things. And I was watching something on TV the other night. I think it was the guy Ross, used to be in the EastEnders, who goes out with the gangs and so on, and he was going to some of the people in Africa who were basically army trained people in Africa that were going around the villages, and the fact that they would not just kill the enemy, but when they came to a village, obviously, and this has happened throughout war, where they've gone and they have raped and gang raped females and so on, and it just shows how animalistic people can be when they have opportunity. And this is a situation where David, of course, had that opportunity because of his position. So because he was the king and everybody had to obey him, he was able to do this and was able to call on Bathsheba in this way, whereas normally he wouldn't have been able to do that. So it is the fact that power sometimes, coupled with these strong lusts of the flesh, and I'm not just talking about sex now, I'm talking about any of the lusts, greed especially, with power often breeds greed, and it's power that people seek after because they are greedy. So it's a kind of vicious circle, really. One begets the other. But the important thing to remember is that this is something that that was abhorrent as far as God was concerned. This is something that even this man, this great man of God, fell from grace. And so we have to be really careful, because any one of us, without throwing stones at others, without trying to take the speck out of our brother's eye, we have to take the plank out of our own eye. And Jesus even goes as far as to say that anyone who looks at a man lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his mind. And it's thought. It's those inner thoughts and feelings that give birth to sin. So we have to be really careful, and it's something that today God really has brought to us. And it's for example, if you've ever tried to counsel a couple that are in love, the sexual attraction is so strong, and there is this falling in love that is often associated with the sexual attraction, and it's good that people fall in love, and that's wonderful. But if you ever try to counsel people that are in love, you soon realise that the chemicals in their brain have just made them totally stupid, and all thought of logical behaviour and working things out tends to get thrown out the window with their brain, because they are so consumed and so totally taken up with their desire to have the other person. And even from a very obsessive point of view, it becomes so strong, that desire, that common sense can literally go out the window. And people sometimes, because of the attraction, and certainly in today's modern times, the attraction, the physical attraction and the lusts of the eyes overtake their logical thinking. So the emotions and the desires that are in them are so strong that any kind of thinking just is not really in operation. So there is this strong desire that burns through, that brings people to a place where they get stupid. When we get fully aroused, we get stupid, and it's like anger and sex are actually very closely linked, which is why there's often violence involved around sex, that it's not always a very gentle operation, and in that sense, that is one of the reasons why we have rape and things like that going on, because those two emotions, it's an arousal in the brain, and both of those emotions tend to come into play. There is an aggression in it, and there is often a link and an overlap between anger and sex. And so this is something that happened here in a way. It is a situation where David wanted this woman, Bathsheba, and at the same time her husband was in the way, and so he was angry that he might get caught out, because Uriah the Hittite wouldn't go and lay with his wife and cover the sin, and so therefore he then sends him to the front of the battle to get killed.